Hello, good afternoon. How is everyone? My name is Joyce Talag. I am your Fika host, and this is already the final Fika for this season. I cannot really say that we should start on a good note. At this point, well, a little good for the economy that, businesses are starting to open up and start their new normal. But it's a little disconcerting that there are still more and more bad news going around. And, part of being positive is not really denying these things, but acknowledging that these things are happening. And I've been having some reflections over the past couple of days. When we started Fika in March, at that time, Ga Cafe was just there. It's just a community. I had drafted a vision and mission statement, but I wasn't very comfortable about releasing or launching it. Then I thought, okay, this is what they call a VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, let's see, uh, complicated, ambiguous, and just as you were going through your own difficulties, your own concerns, I was also having my own concerns. And I thought, isn't this a good time to be together, to take a journey together amid the darkness? We didn't know what to expect, really. So that's why we had these Fika sessions. I'm going to show you something. This is a quote that, you know, I just recently encountered from one of my favorite one of my coaching idols in the coaching world, Marsha Reynolds. She said that coaching is a safe place where people can fully be themselves and through conversations discover new ways to achieve their desired outcomes. And this is actually the reason why we had Cafe. It's a cafe, it's a place where conversations happen. And at the time that we were trying to figure out what to do, we had a cafe serving as a mental safe space for women who speak the same language as yours. It's really a difficult time. We were uncertain, we were scared, and it didn't help that the conversations that we would see in our social media feeds happened to incite anger and even more fear. That's why we had Gal Cafe. Go there, we wouldn't be talking about the bad news or more of the bad news. We'll try to have more moderate conversations because that's what we needed at the time. We needed a mental safe space. And you know what's good about conversations, which we also do with coaching? It is that it leads us to more discoveries. It leads us to breakthroughs. At the time, it was just so dark. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to expect. What is this invisible enemy? What is this virus? How is it going to impact my business or my family, myself, my health? Am I really safe staying indoors? Those are questions that none of us could ever answer. Now, the thing is, as we spent time together with all these fikas, we started with just me doing this live sessions, and we had guests joining us. I figured out that the whole formula, okay, I'll be talking about that, is, just to give you something that will help you lean on something that, will help you bounce back eventually. But at that time, it was just to have some sort of support for your footing. And now we have that fire alarm again going off. It just keeps on going off, and I'm not really sure, okay, if it's a genuine alarm. But okay, just going back a little, I just share that this is the whole point of these Fika conversations. And I have to thank you for joining me in the past, what, almost 3 months. That is a good sign of trust that you place on me, and I'm not going to break that trust. In fact, I have some good news, just a little bit of good news because that's what we need at the moment, a little later. So, what can you expect from this FICA, this final FICA? Well, we'll just have a review of what we have so far discussed in the past season, at least this season, the second season, but we might touch on some topics in the first season. Then what else? Well, what is it that we can hope for together in the next coming days? And finally, okay, well, I just have some good announcements that hopefully can inspire you. So here goes. All right. We had 6 sessions this FICA, 6 basic sessions. We had 2 extra sessions, all going back to what is it that you said you needed in our community. These are the foundations that we have so far discovered. We invited a counselor who's based from Colombo, so Kanya. We had Lay Ermitaño and Louis Arcilia help us build the foundations of resiliency that will hopefully help you bounce back better. So number 1, conversations trigger breakthroughs. That's why we have this speaker, right? Next, resilience is a shared human experience. Because we started with a question. If you happen to be more capable, meaning you're educated, you have a better social standing, does that mean that you're able to bounce back better? Does that mean that you are more resilient than the others? But this is what we discovered. It is a shared human experience. Everybody has the capacity to bounce back. And if you look at number 3, resiliency is built through your SSRs. That's something that I keep on repeatedly saying. What are the SSRs again? SSRs are strengths, skills, and resources. Strengths and skills being inherent in you. This is something that you already have. And as a coach, what I do is to help you unleash these things so that you have something to use during trying times. Now, resources, what are these R's? This is what the Gal Cafe is for. You need resources for support so that you have some sort of balance that you can use when you're struggling. And just like me and everybody else, or most of you, you might have struggled a bit when we were trying to figure out, okay, what is this virus? And we're still not yet sure. We're still not yet out of the woods. That's why we're still doing this conversation. So that's what the Gal Cafe is for. It's for your resource. It's to help you be more resilient. The number 4, we also learned that purpose and necessity fuel us to bounce back. Look, we invited a mom entrepreneur and we asked her, okay, what helped you just decide to move forward when everything was falling apart? And she said, it's my purpose, it's my family. And we tried to balance this view with a man's perspective, also an entrepreneur, Louis. We said it was necessity. He had a family to support. And I guess to all of us who are still trying to figure out what to do, the same holds true. Purpose, necessity. When this is clear to us, we know what to focus on. We know that everything else is noise. I know it's a crazy world out there. And trust me, some people reach out to me and tell me, Joyce, I want to talk to you. I want to have a coaching session with you because you seem so positive. The fact is, it's not true all the time. And we have to reframe what positivity really means during this time. I do get affected. I do get mad. I do get sad. I do get afraid, just like most of you. But the thing is, I try to look at, okay, what is it that I can control? Remember, we had that coaching session. Go back to the survivor's mindset for that live coaching workshop. What is it that I can control? And this is where I will focus on. Because if I will let myself be distracted by everything else, my life will fall apart. And it's not just me whose life will fall apart. I have a daughter who I'm supporting. And I have you. I have my clients. I cannot afford to lose sight of what's important. That's purpose and necessity for me. What is purpose and necessity for you? Next, from both Louis and Mommy Lay, consider triple wins in designing your pivot or when you reimagine your new normal. What are these triple wins? First, we look at our clients, our customers, who's around us. What is it that they need at the moment? What is their situation? Because when we are aware or when we are mindful about what they need, then we will know how to use the strengths and skills that we have to meet their needs. That's how we create business. And in the process, when we are effective in doing that, we also give ourselves the business that we need at the moment. And third, when we are capable of doing this, that also gives us in a position to give back to our community. At this time, we are called to be good neighbors, to be good citizens. You see, the funny thing is, it took a pandemic for us to start looking around and checking on our neighbors. Here, I live in a condo, and I never really bothered to check on my neighbors. I hardly know their names. Outside my condo community, we have the barangay. It's like a bigger community here in the Philippines. Maybe it's not comparable to a county, but it's a smaller unit of, it's like a town. And all these Viber groups, all these Facebook groups made me more aware about what's going on and also reach out. I created our own Viber group for the condo community, and when we had our own issues, we were able to pool our resources together and our shared strengths, and we're able to come up with results. We're able to push for change, little changes to happen. And that holds true for a lot of you who are probably going through the same things. So again, we have this conversation so that we learn from each other. We have our breakthroughs. We look at resiliency as something that we share together, and we look at these SSR, strengths, skills, and resources. Again, going back, we look at our purpose and necessity because this is what's going to push us forward when we feel really, really hopeless. Then we have the triple wins to consider. So if you want to read more about it and access the links to the previous Fika sessions, head over to my blog, joystalag.com/blog. That is the summary of the foundational Fika. Now we move on to, well, these other things. How can we be more resilient and bounce back in the other aspects of our lives? You know, Sukanya said, resiliency is built over time, and we have a very solid, concrete example in the life of Lay Ermitaño in how resiliency is built from your childhood. That's why as parents, we have that responsibility to build resiliency among our kids as early as now. We can shield them all we want, but at the end of the day, they're going to face the VUCA world alone. And now is also a good time to start building for the next rainy day. And trust me, I read somebody write, this is not a sprint. The whole COVID pandemic is actually a marathon. Matira matibay. It's survival of the fittest. So how can we stretch our resources for what's uncertain? We look at, okay, We had Eileen, who is a financial planner, talk about rebuilding your balance sheet. And now is actually a great time to start investing while the market is down. The thing about setbacks is that they are not permanent. Um, Sheryl Sandberg says that at the time that you are going through a major setback, a major challenge in your life, there is the tendency to feel that, okay, this is permanent, and I feel really, 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 really bad. But the thing is, it's not permanent. One day, things will start getting better, and you don't have to feel guilty about it. That's the thing about resilience. When you have that mindset or that perspective, like what Sukani said, that nothing is permanent, then you will realize that this is just a stepping stone for you to be better in the next phase of your life. And I feel bad somehow. There's a part of me that feels for those who have lost loved ones during this time. And I really don't know what to say other than I am here for you if you need a conversation, and we respect what you're going through. But for those of you who have that opportunity to bounce back and to shift your mindset and your perspective at this point, go back to your finances, go back to your habits. Now is the time for change to really happen. Then we had a sex and relationships therapist join us for Fika, Dr. Rika Cruz, and she talked about how you can bounce back better in your love lives. If you're single, what you might need is just to connect. You can do that with apps. You can have virtual dates. I got asked out in a virtual video. What do you call that? A virtual video date. It's not a video conference, but it's fun. There's nothing. I don't expect any relationship to transpire from my life to happen at this point. But if you just feel like you need to connect, then you can use all these resources to have mini reunions, mini dates with your friends. In my group, I have a college brigada. It's a college, we are 7 or 8 of us, and we are all located in different parts of the world. The funny thing is, it just took a pandemic for us to be seen in a single frame on Zoom. You can do that if you're single and in need of connection. Now, for couples, this is also a good time to bounce back. And what's important is you still establish a mental safe space for each other. So if you're going through some challenges, perhaps that is what you need at the moment. You respect each other's space, you give each other space. And I'm going to bring back some learnings also from mindful parenting, quarantine parenting, which we had with the daycare lady, my friend Tanya, during the first season. That calls for a bit of mindfulness. Our kids have that capacity to be resilient. They know what's going on. But the thing is, whatever it is, or however they choose to respond, is actually dependent on how they see us respond to the crisis. And that calls for a lot of mindful parenting during this quarantine. I know it's challenging. All of a sudden, we have to be moms and employees and tutors all at the same time. And then we cannot hire help because there is that big challenge out there that, okay, we're not discriminating, but everybody just tries to be confined in their own homes. So we have to be mindful. We have to exercise self-care. So go back to these past Fika sessions to get a bit more, insights. Now, finally, okay, was this just last week? It feels like ages ago. We had Ginger Arboleda of Tatsumo share with us some tips on how you can manage your remote teams effectively. I understand We are all mostly used to the office-based setup, and all of a sudden we found ourselves transitioning abruptly to the remote setup. Some of you might be going back to your offices or having some sort of blended work schedules. Some companies like Google, I think they gave their employees the whole year, the rest of the year, doing working from home. They gave that, should I call it privilege, to their employees. Now, what I picked up again from that session is that this is the time to be fully human as managers. One of our viewers, Lelaine, she said that what's good about that talk is that it humanizes the manager. Right now, you just don't talk about productivity. And you don't just look at your staff or your employees as workers, as machines who are going to produce results and outputs. You have to see them as humans. And in my case, I've been having coaching sessions with the women. And what's been consistent is from time to time, there would be a baby who's crying. There would be a toddler or a school-aged child who would approach my coachee and ask for little things. Sometimes they're curious, who is mommy talking to or who is daddy talking to? So pets, even interrupting our coaching sessions, and that's the new norm. Admittedly, before I would be irritated when there are all these distractions, but I kind of grew during this time because I realized this is the situation. And going back to all these talks, these are resources that help me share with you now that what's important in bouncing back, rebuilding your resiliency resources in these aspects of your life is that you need mindfulness, meaning your presence, be fully in the now, focus on what's important. It's useless to be thinking too much or worrying too much about the future because it's still uncertain. Second, be intentional. Set your intentions. What am I going to focus on for today? And third, be human enough to empathize with your clients, with your customers, with your family members who are really important, and with your staff at work. Now, okay, what else? Oh, here you go. It may be the end of this season of Fika, and I'm still thinking whether or not we should have season 3. But this next 100 days is really crucial because this is the time that we are rebuilding our lives in our next normal. So between now and just a day before my birthday, September 12th, for 100 days, I have this big, hairy, audacious goal of having 100 individuals, working with them in different capacities as a coach, as a mentor, as a brief coach, or an emergency mental counselor. We will be working together just for me to support you in your bouncing back better. In these days, you will hear from me. I will give you 100 coaching tips that you can use at least even for a minute when you're feeling a little anxious. Oh, I have this light bulb moment. Thanks to this coaching tip, I will do this. I will feel a little better, a little more confident. And just like what I always say, coaching is a shared journey. So it's not just you who's going to get better at what you do in the process. I also learned something from your experience. It's why I thank you for the trust that you give me. So again, this next 100 days program between June 4 or from June 4 to September 12, just a day after my birthday, I will be working with 100 individuals and I will be giving you 100 coaching tips to help you bounce back better. Now, if you'd like to bounce back better with me, just head over to calendly.com/joystalag/the next 100 days. I, in fact, have a promo for you. Coaching being a shared journey would be extra better when you share it with a friend. So if you sign up with a friend, then you just pay for the price of one coaching session. Just go to that link so you can schedule your session. I'm pretty booked for the next up to next up to early next week, next week. But feel free to find some free time and book your session there. Okay, so I just saw one comment. Oh, Zoom bombers. Okay, if you have any questions, feel free to post them now as a comment, or you may send me a message. Type in your comments if you have any questions, or you may send a private message to my page, Coffee with Joyce, or my personal account, Joyce Talag. You may also send me an email at info@joycetalag.com. We still have a few minutes, so I want to hear from you. I just have here one cute comment from one of my good friends who is a loyal Fika guest. Thank you for joining the conversation, dude. Okay, what about the others? I want to hear from you. Any comments? Any bounce back better story that you'd like to share? Feel free to share them. Or how have these Fika sessions assisted you in bouncing back better? Or at least in feeling less alone for your coffee breaks and pantry talks? All right. So thank you so much for taking this shared journey together. You know, doing this just made me feel a little better. When we started, I felt kind of, you know, not so well because of all the news that I have been reading over the past couple of days. Sometimes I feel helpless and hopeless. But doing these live sessions just make me feel a little better. I know that I have some sense of power back in my hands. I know that somehow I'm making that little change, even for just one, even for just a minute. So again, my name is Joyce Talag. I am your Fika host. I do hope that you will share the next 100 days with me because I'm very grateful for your trust. 100 days, 100 individuals, be part of it. Take your friend with you, and together we will all bounce back better in this next normal. Thank you very much for sharing this last Fika session for the season. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon and day and evening. You all take care and stay safe. Thank you so much. Bye.